15 days to slow the spread. What started out as America's drastic but quick action to combat the virus is now an over 6-month war of attrition with no end in sight. Like all of you, despite what some would have you believe, the rest of the country as well, care about the well-being of our nation, and also its people. I want to find the best solution to this crisis that helps as many people as possible. Unfortunately, this virus has gotten heavily politicized, and many are unwilling to stray away from the status quo in fear of retribution or of public backlash. Oh man, all right, I can't really talk. As you guys know, the coronavirus and its lockdowns have been the #1 topic of discussion in our country for a while now. Ever since March, the January timeframe, that's all you see on the news. How Trump's reacting to it, how it's affecting the world. I'm sure a lot of people watching this have been affected, whether you know somebody who's been affected, either maybe you yourself has gotten it, or I mean, in some way, shape, or form, almost everybody in the world has been affected by it, whether it be by lockdowns, not being able to get eclectic surgery, or not eclectic surgery, but just not being able to get surgery in general, being scared to leave your home, having high rates of depression because of antisocial behavior. Your grades might be suffering. In some way, shape, or form, almost everybody, including everybody watching this, has been affected. And despite those negative side effects, and despite everybody being affected by it, the lives lost as well, I believe that it's time for the lockdowns to end. These lockdowns have exacerbated crime, increased unemployment, and civil unrest, and have proven to be ineffective. I will be explaining how. 214 million people infected, and 2 million dead. That's what the CDC predicted. The CDC predicted that this was a reality that was most likely to come true. But fortunately, it is not. The CDC reports that as of current, 12 million cases and just over 250,000 deaths have happened in the United States. Now that's not awesome, that's not great, but that's a far cry from the 214 million people affected that the CDC foresaw. And the imperial model is what was actually used, and that's what a lot of countries are using right now, but that's what predicted the 214 million people affected and 2 million people who would die. Currently, the death rate is 0.00176 according to the CDC. And that's in the United States. It's way less for younger people and just for healthier populations in general. Usually, a lot of that is people with comorbidities, obesity, liver disease, other things like that. And what a comorbidity is basically just another contributing factor to that person's death. And only 5% of actual cases in the United States, 5% of deaths, only 5% of those cases did not have a comorbidity. So in other words, only 5% of those cases, COVID-19 was the direct contributor to that person's death. Now, and also on top of that, we have two vaccines currently on the horizon. One by Pfizer, and they're all projected. They all have an over 90% success rate. So this is all good news, right? Well, if the situation is getting better, and the situation is better than what was predicted, why are people talking about more lockdowns? And if the lockdowns worked, why another one? And if they didn't work, why another one? Well, lockdowns may not be the answer. Many countries have taken a variety of approaches, some strict and some more targeted. The Heritage Foundation states, sweeping lockdowns did not result in better outcomes than more targeted measures such as isolation of the sick, mass testing, and contact tracing. Now, Italy, one of the countries in question, has the highest death rate at 0.06%. At 0.06 or 6%. So that is extremely high. It has some of the strictest lockdowns in Europe, and has also been plagued by the virus the most. And so, like I said, it has some of the strictest lockdowns. They only allow people to leave their homes for essential activities like going to the store. Other than that, people are locked in their homes with their families. But one city inside of Italy actually isn't doing too bad, and that's the city of Vo. And they only quarantine the sick people and the virus almost completely went away. So this is a town of 3,000 people. They just mass tested everybody and then found all the people that had it, and then they just put them away, quarantined those people, and the virus is pretty much gone in the city of Vo. And also South Korea is another country. They used a more targeting approach, and that's like what I was talking about earlier, contact tracing, hotlines. So what these people would do, call anytime they had a symptom, they get screened for it, extremely extensive. And they also had isolation centers for people who were sick, so they could go quarantine in different centers. And they also closed large gatherings as well. And they have a death rate of less than 1%, so way less than Italy, and also less strict lockdowns. And also Sweden, so the least strict of all of them. Little to no restrictions. And they had a death rate of just under 3%. So it's half of Italy, and they had almost no restrictions whatsoever. And they've also come under a lot of criticism for it. Their death rates did rise a little bit, just in most countries, but leveled out and declined. And then you have the United States. And the highest death rates in the United States are actually in the cities like New Jersey, New York, with the strictest lockdown measures. In summary, we really just have no idea what's going on. We have no idea how to solve this. It's not very consistent. And we're dealing with a lot of repercussions for a solution that we do not know will even work. The utility of these lockdowns are questionable at best. One thing that can be tracked, however, is the negative effects, one of them being an overall spike in crime. Chicago has experienced record murder rates and has seen the bloodiest weekends on record. One weekend brought over 60 wounded and 14 dead, including a 20-month-old shot in the chest in a car seat. Chicago is among several cities experiencing a spike in shootings and homicides seen in reports. Spikes in sexual abuse. 79% of victims say they live with their perpetrators. Now with these lockdowns and people being stuck at home, closing schools and canceling activities has put this abuse permanently with their abusers. Domestic abuse, sexual abuse hotlines have increased by 25%. These calls have increased by 25%, which is insane. And also unemployment. Unemployment rose higher in 3 months of COVID-19 than it did in 2 years of the Great Depression. Broadcast reports from Pew Research, an accredited organization. And also the unemployment rose from 3.8 to 13% at its peak, higher than exactly since the Great Depression. But it's since leveled out to around 7%. Increased national debt. CBS News reports that some experts say the pandemic will cost $16 trillion, more than half of all debt accumulated to this point. Failing airline industry. According to the impacts of COVID-19 on the global airline industry and event study approach, airline profit is down 25% and is currently unsustainable. Falling college attendance. Washington Post reports 11% drop in international students and 2.5% drop in overall attendance. Increased rates of depression, suicide, substance abuse. 40% of adults reported an adverse mental condition, multiple times higher than the same time last year. Suicides are up 145%, according to BMJ.com. Drug abuse. Drugabuse.gov reports cocaine use is up 10%, heroin use is up 13%, and meth use is up 20%. Fentanyl, 32%, all lethal drugs and highly addictive. People are at home being sold scary news, outrage, divisiveness at a higher rate than ever before as well. And the social isolation and turmoil is tearing this country apart. Our country can only take so much more of this. We are a pressure cooker ready to blow. All of our attention has been devoted to this foreign virus. And as a result, certain issues have been allowed to grow unchecked, with crime, depression, and many other things on the rise. We're going to reach a point where the cure is worse than disease. If that point already has not been reached, even our social fabric is being torn apart. Who would have thought a virus could be politicized? Instead of it being one side versus the other, it should be every side coming together, looking at the facts, and making a decision on the right course of action. We need to look to the future. These lockdowns are clearly not it and unsustainable. What can you or I do? Well, you can vote, you can research, you can form your own opinion. Unfortunately, doing that brings with it risk of retribution, but the truth and right cause is worth it. If every person had the mentality that their actions were frivolous, nothing would ever change. Every one of us has the ability to influence change, be it by voting for a politician, standing against the status quo, or not complying with the unconstitutional and damaging lockdowns. But regardless, change must happen. Our country depends on it.